All right, so hey everybody, NovelistCrim here, and welcome to Writing Company and Motivation. This is an accountability stream where we get together Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays between 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. and we do some writing, kind of like pushing forward whatever goals we have set for ourselves. So, for those of you who are new, the first portion of this stream is usually dedicated to doing a journal entry. We kind of like write down anything that's going on, like, as in like recent news about either the novel or anything like that. And then we also kind of discuss some of your guys' questions and also any writing challenges or advice that I can come up with, let's call, or things that I've kind of encountered while doing this journey here. So let me go ahead and pull up our thing here and we can switch, because I believe that we're done with that journal entry. Now we can just kind of discuss it. Whoop. All right, cool. All right, so flipping over to discussion. Today we didn't really have like a journal entry for myself, which is fine, because we got so many questions that we're gonna have to like instead just focus on that, and I think that's better. It's like more fun. Okay, so let's dive right into it. The first question that we got from our Discord buddies is, how do you know when your book or story is done? It's a good question. To be honest, like, I really don't have an answer to that. I feel like every author who is writing a book, I think they'll know when it's done. as silly as it sounds, but it's like, I think you have like a climax or something, inside your mind that you want to like achieve, and you kind of like can sense it out, like when it's time to like get out of there and like the story's finished. So in that question, in that regard, the author knows. In terms of like when your drafts are done, and like say for example, how many drafts and how much polish is required before it's ready. I mean, that like varies between like your level of experience and what kind of standards you've set for yourself, right? So like for me, I feel like I need to run through the story a few times. Like first draft is always about just getting the words down as fast as possible, just seeing like that's me in the corner. Getting the words done as fast as possible. The second draft would be more about like making sure that the story functions properly. So it's like making sure that there's no plot holes. The story makes sense. It's fluid. There's any like scenes that are kind of like dead weight, you can just kind of cut and get rid of it. Then like I would probably do like a third draft, which would probably focus more on like grammar polish, world building. If there's anything that I missed, does any of these scenes have like what's called like white walls or like white room syndrome, in the sense that you're in nothing, in an absolutely undetailed room, and there's no way to there's no setting elements to kind of ground you into that scene. So then that's another level. Then like you have to consider like, well, do I want to do beta reading? And how long that's going to take, or do I want to like hire an editor or do the editing myself? And that's another thing you got to take. So like it really just honestly depends on like what you consider for your own standards, and like when you think it's ready and done. Like I think like every author's objective is to produce the best possible like content that they can. And I think that's also up to the author to determine what qualifies as best to them. So, it's a hard question to answer. But yeah, I think you can just kind of like simply boil it down to when you know. All right, so second question. Do you title your story before or after the story is written? And does it ever change? So I've done both. Like when I don't know if you guys like experience this, but I do notice a pattern that like in my experience, when I first started writing, the title was super important, and I think that this is like in the growth of a writer. I think like having this this phase of title obsession is kind of important because in some ways, like I don't know if you ever believe in like the law of attraction or something like that. Like the idea that like you can kind of like, if the more you visualize something, the more you like bring it into manifestation, right? So like if you have like a title or something that you can call your book, right? And then like the more details that you give it in your head, the more fleshed out and solidified it becomes in your mind, right? And then you become obsessed with the idea, and then like, you know, that idea becomes infectious. It becomes so real that you like, you know, you almost want to make it a like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So like I can see and understand why like beginning writers are like more, you know, focused on like the title, because like it kind of brings to realization like, you know, the potential. You know, if you can see it in your mind, if you can see that like, you know, the book that is like written with a title and it has your name on it, and like, you know, you can picture it on your bookshelf and stuff, it really helps with the motivation process to like kind of get you going. So, you know, in a way that's kind of like a useful tool. I've done it before for my own trunk novels that I won't release to the world. I'll probably salvage them later, but like, yeah. For trunk novels, I've definitely done that before, quite a few times. For this current iteration, or like, you know, more recent stories, I haven't really like, I haven't really thought about titles as much. And it's mostly because I'm just waiting for a cool title to come up in my head. Like, as I'm reading the story, I kind of like, you know, listen for, you know, interesting moments or interesting concepts that are going around. Because sometimes, like, you know, when I started this story, I had like an idea of like a title, but then like, you know, that cool title kind of fell apart because the word that I was going to use no longer exists anymore in the book. And I was like, oh, okay. So now I have to like come up with something else. I'm like, well, I don't know. I can name it after the city, or I can name it after the character. But in terms of like, you know, what I name it now, for now, I have two working titles for it. One is just Kaylin's story. as a way for me to call it that, you know, because it's easy to remember, but it's not going to be the final title. I was thinking about just naming the book Censor, which is like it's the name of the city. So you know, the Censor series or something like that. I don't know. I'm still working on it. Like it doesn't grip me as much as I'd like, but yeah, that's why I haven't really fully decided yet. So I think like I think there's merit to both ways of doing it. Both doing the title before or after a story is finished. And I think that like the writing, the title's definitely subject to change. I think everything in writing is pretty much subject to change. That's just kind of like the nature of art, you know. Art tends not to be a very stagnant thing. It's very organic and moving, and it's alive. So decisions change, people's change, and the writing and title should also change as you move along. So let's move on to the next question. So do you write in past or present tense? I mostly write in past tense, and that's when I'm like doing narrative. But I noticed that like if I'm doing something that's more like an action heavy scene, it tends to become a little bit more of a present sort of style, in order to like, you know, make things feel like, you know, they're in the moment, they're now, they're, you know, pressing. But in general, the way I like make sense of a world and the way I like interpret writing and my experience in watching this creativity is mostly I'm an observer and I'm sitting there and I'm writing down what I see, right? So like I'm watching what they do and I'm just basically writing it down. So I'm like, okay, they moved here, they did this, they did that. And you know, it's just kind of like frantically just writing down those notes as you move along and watch them go. So that's why I kind of like writing, you know, past tense, because it just makes sense to me. Like, you're a follower. So, let's see here. Next question. Do you write in first, second, third, or third person? And have you tried second person? Let's see here. So, I write and speak in second person only when I'm playing like a gaming format, like If I were to write a choose your own adventure, I'd do that, obviously. But usually when it comes to like Dungeons and Dragons, I explain things in the second person. So technically, yes, I do write in second person, but only for Dungeons and Dragons. You remember you discussed that? Yeah. Outside of that, third person, close is my favorite style of writing. I've tried first person, and I'm absolutely garbage at it. I need to practice. I could probably do it if I took some time. I love reading first person books. I've read a lot of them, but it's oh god, it's like oil and water. It just does not connect with me. It just can't. Like I get it's almost like trying to like force me to get onto like an Apple computer, you know? Like I know how to work a regular like a PC, but like the minute I get onto an Apple, I'm like I don't know what I'm doing. Like I click on a thing and then it goes into a vortex and now I'm confused. Like I don't know what to do. So third person close is my favorite type of writing style, and the reason why is I kind of feel like it has the best of all worlds, because you stick to one character and one character only, at least during a scene, or whatever chapter you're working on, right? You hang on to that character, their emotions, what they're doing, and all that stuff is kind of like locked onto them. So the world is still a little bit of a mystery, which is cool. You also have like, the emotional intel as to like what's going on with that character. It also locks in the world and the perspective a little bit, so it's easier to flow and understand what's going on. Sometimes story can be like really difficult to write in third person, especially when you do third person omniscient. It's a hard style to master, very hard. It's possible though. It's not for me, but like with third person omniscient, it comes off as like what's called a dated style, because like that's third person omniscient was used a lot, like back in like the 70s and 80s, right? Or even like way beyond that. I don't like third person omniscient because like what it does is for me it gives like a lot of spoilers. Like if there's like a monster like hiding in wait and whatnot, then you have to just the omniscient being would talk about that, and then like it's more of you'd have to like master the concept of like making it so that you really want to the characters to succeed at something, and then also like teasing the reader and giving them a tidbit or a bit of information, knowing that something bad is going to happen to them. A little bit of spoiler for me, don't like it, but like and it also takes way too much setup and planning. I can't do that on the fly while I'm doing discovery writing. It just doesn't work. So like yeah, also like third person close seems to be like something that's used a lot in the market these days, especially for fantasy. So I'm kind of like into it. Like I like it a lot. To me it's a perspective that just makes sense. Let's see here. What's called? Oof, I messed up here. I gotta change that in the journal entry. One tick while I fix that real quick. There we go. All right, so do I plan to build the Crimsdale world lore? All right, so for those of you who don't know, a while ago, when we were doing, the early days of streaming and whatnot, we were creating a Discord server at first. Oh, geez, there's no background music? Wow. Thank you so much there, Moreland. I appreciate it. Must have been like a super, quiet and boring thing. My God. I apologize. So, like I was saying, in the beginning, when we had, the Discord server that was made, what we did was, when we designed the server, we didn't know what to call it, so we just called it like the Crimsdale Inn, part of the fact that like Crim, is my name, and we just pretended that it was in like some kind of fictional valley somewhere between some mountains and whatever. So it became the Crimsdale Inn, and we also we had like a tavern theme back in the day. So that's kind of like where the idea is kind of stuck, this idea of like a Crimsdale Inn. And then we started like, expanding a little bit further, making like inside jokes about like, there's guards and, there's, lands beyond and different types of things. So this question asker is asking, are we ever going to like, build more on that lore? I'm not against it, to be honest. Like, I think that it would be kind of funny to like, create this like whole weird universe about like different characters and stuff that pops up, but like aside from that, I really don't I'm not opposed to it. The only thing is that it's not exactly a priority for me at the moment. Mostly the priority is trying to finish the novel, so and I'm trying to do that before I get to age 31. I'm 29 right now, but like I would like to get that before I turn 31, so that's the goal. I have until this year to publish a damn book, and we'll get it done. So, let's see here. Next question is, what is Kalen's origin story? How did you come up with him, and what inspired you to tell it? So, for those of you who don't know, in my novel, the main character's name is Kalen, and I didn't answer this in the journal because I only have 2,000 characters to work with since I haven't paid for Nitro yet. So there's that. So Kalen's story. What is his origin story? To give you the short, long answer, it's this novel. The novel is his origin story of like how you take this pathetic street kid and make him into something that's pretty dangerous and fun. So like I guess I don't know like how much I can give without being like like giving away too much, but basically like the main character he made a mistake at the beginning of the book, and it ended up with him being in trouble with like a legendary criminal, and then he basically ends up getting caught up and mixed up with this criminal, and a lot of things kind of like domino from there on. So that's kind of like his story of like how he became the person that he is, because he started off as like a poor nothing with lots of burdens on his life. And then he makes one mistake and it just gets progressively worse, but like also more interesting as the time goes on. That's basically the most vague answer I can give you, but like aside from that, how did I come up with him? It took a while for me to like fully realize who Kalen was. When I was first designing the character, just to describe like what he is, he's basically like what's effectively a magical engineer, like an artificer, as we call it. So he has magic, he knows how to build stuff, he's a human, and kind of described as like dark hair, silver eyes, skin like milked coffee. How much milk, you decide, I don't care. Let's see. So like with his creation, it was kind of like a, hey, I love silver eyes, yeah, they're pretty cool. With his creation, I'm trying to think of like how I pieced him together, because like I know that I like when I was writing or like when the seed for the idea, right? So the way this novel came about was basically I wanted to tell a story that was like about kind of like a steampunk. I wanted to try to do some kind of like steampunk thing, or at least as close as I could to it. And then I thought, well, I've always wanted to write a steampunk. I've always wanted to do like artificing and magic, like, guns and stuff. That would be cool. And then I thought, well, what's really neat? I really like, I don't know how you guys are familiar with like Zahn and Piltover from League of Legends, like Arcane from Netflix. You know, I really love that setting. I love the universe. I love the idea of the this like upper city and the lower city. So like and you know, like one's a slums and one's like kind of like a techno paradise. So like I really love that idea, and I wanted to create like a story that revolves around that. The way the character came along was I needed somebody who was kind of like you know, able to have this magic and, you know, create these things, but I also wanted him to be like a kind of like a gunslinger. So when I was designing him, I thought of like you know, originally I pictured him being like a 30-year-old guy with like you know, very gruff, handsomely rugged, with yeah, just like a kind of like a gunslinger, like a cop almost, cowboyish. And I kind of pictured him being kind of like similar to Raynor from StarCraft or whatever. The only problem is that when I started writing a story for him, you know, it came off, it was pretty good. He was kind of like a, you know, country bumpkin. It was pretty interesting story from what I've written. But then like I got kind of like frustrated with like where things were going, and I'm like, let me just go and write a origin story, just like something that can like explain why this guy is so competent as a soldier. You know, what makes him so good at what he does, and how does he know all these things, and how did he get his magic? So I wanted to go back and then just start from the very, very first moment that pushed him into this situation. And when I wrote that character, he wasn't a cowboy, he wasn't a gunslinger. He was a city kid, about age 15. And after writing the first scenes of like, you know, who that character was, and seeing their struggles and like how they tried to survive in such a hostile world, I fell in love with him immediately. And I was like, no, this is the story I want to tell. This is excellent, you know? I really realized that this is the character that's like going to be the one to like, you know, make it. So I kind of just threw the old idea aside, and I'm like, I'm gonna write and focus on, you know, this one, where he has nothing and he has to earn everything, and it's pretty cool to see like you know, his rise throughout the story. It's a neat thing. Let's see. In terms of like, I guess that like pretty much covers like the inspiration, how I came up with him a little bit. His name, let's consider the name, Kalen. So like, one of the things that I like doing is called anagrams, right? So you take like an anagram, for the uninformed, is essentially when you take like letters from a word or words, and then you mix them together and you turn it into a new word, right? So what I did with Kalen was like, I knew that he was going to be an inventor or an engineer of some sort. So I picked the name Nikola Tesla and then scrambled it around, and I got Kalen Listo, and that's where I got the name from. I picked Kalen because that was like the name of like one of the roleplay characters that I used to have play with when I was younger. And also Kalen means little warrior or little fighter, so like I thought that was pretty apt for a name for him. And Listo in Spanish means ready, so little warrior ready is his name. Kalen Listo. So it's kind of, that's basically where that came from. I really want to hang out and continue writing, but like I gotta prioritize some of these the time here. So anywho, guys, thank you guys so much for coming out. For those of you who stick around, really appreciate the love and support. It's a lot of fun doing this type of stuff, and it gets better and better whenever we get to spend time together, and knowing that for those who are serious and are pushing and fighting out there valiantly to try to get their thing done, it's awesome to see us like, you know, together in the trenches doing this shit. It's beautiful. So I thank you. It's awesome. Anywho, for those of you who are new here, again, my name is NovelistCrim. This was Writing Company and Motivation, an accountability stream which we host on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern. If you haven't, I recommend you leave a follow. It's a great way to get notified when we do this type of stuff. You can also check out our Discord by hitting !Discord in chat, and that's a little link that you'll get there that'll take you to the channel. You can ask questions, you can check out the journal entries that we've done, and you can also get a hold of me if you'd like, as well as all the other fun people who are here in chat. So again, thank you guys so much. Take it easy, and as always, stay passionate.